Okay, let's do another one. I'm going to stick with a class B. So right now, that's your default subnet mask. Here's the address that we own. So I would set it up the exact same way, draw out my lines, put my number line in there so I can keep track of what I'm doing. Okay? We have been asked for 10 networks. All right? So we need to put together our rules, our step-by-step guide to figuring out how to subnet, all right? So your first consideration is what are you being asked for? Subnets or hosts? Remember, there are two addresses we're not allowed to use. So secondly, no matter what, for now, sorry, we're going to add 2 to that number, to the given number, to accommodate those two addresses, the all ones, the all zeros that we're not allowed to use. If you ask me for 10, I've got to add 2 to that. I need to give you at least 12. Right? What's our next question?
How many bits?
That's it. How many bits? So how many bits to write the number 12? I gave you a permanent number line to look at up there if you would like. So how many bits to write the number 12?
2 bits.
In what universe?
4 bits.
6 bits. Oh, sorry. Wrong bit. Yeah. Because how do you write? So tell me how to write the number 12.
0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1.
Okay. Remember, we can throw away the leading zeros so as to not confuse you. 1, 1, 0, 0. This is the number 12 in binary. Because that's 1, 2, the 4s, and the 8s. Right? Okay. So if I know that, and my suggestion for you as you're learning this is to make notes for yourself. So say, I used 4 bits. That way if you get down to the end and you're like, wow, this doesn't work. Where did I go wrong? And you go back and you look up here and you say, oh, 2 bits. Well, that wasn't right. All right? So 4 bits. We now know. Now you have to decide. You have to decide which direction. And for now, because we're only doing network, but you got to decide which direction to move your line. If you've asked me for networks or for subnets, I'm going from the left to the right. If you've asked me for hosts, I'm going from the right to the left. Okay, and we'll see that in a minute. All right. So my line right now is here, correct? My subnet mask right now says 255.255.0.0. My dividing line for my network and host is where the 1s stop and the 0s start. Right now the 1s are here, these first 2 octets. So my network line is here. I want to move it to the right. How many bits?
4 bits.
You really got to let go of that whole 2 thing. 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my new line. So from this line, this direction is now network, that direction, hosts. Okay? Does that feel familiar to you? More or less? So we moved our line. That was the whole which direction. So do that. Move it. Now, we're going to place a 1 to the left of the new line. Okay? Right there. There's a 1. Because I'm counting up in binary. Can't use all zeros. There's no point even talking about it. I'm going to put the 1 over here. So right now I have this. The number 1 and 4 bits of binary. And we're going to use our little shortcut thing down here. Now imagine the rest of this as being all zeros. What number do I have? What IP address do I have? Yeah, there's our separation. So 150.9.16.0. Add 1 to that. So take this second line down here and put up here. Now, this will change. We make this accurate according to this one. So that's network first. Because now I have moved my line. Got 4 bits of the second octet in my host portion. Okay. So if I do this, if I take this line and add it up, put it up here, what's my first usable address?
150.9.26.
Right. Now take these all 1s and fill it up here. And add it up, and what do I get? Dot 255. And so what's my last usable address? Okay? Using this, put all this up here. So 16, 8, 4, 2, 1, add that all up, 31.
Could you also figure out the next network and
Could.
subtract 1?
You could.
Or check it that way?
When I learned subnetting, I've got pages of binary. Because I had to see the pattern. And I sort of had to reinforce that in my brain. So if that's what it takes for you to do it, then get out a piece of paper and write these things in binary. Okay? You have to understand this in binary. If you don't, later, it'll be very hard for you to figure out answers. Cisco does not ask you, hey, here's an address and a default subnet mask, and hey, go fill out this chart. That is not going to be the way the test works. They're going to ask you to give them the first usable address of the 8th network. You may need to create a chart so that you can do it, so that you can answer the question, but they don't ask you, here's a chart, fill it out. Right? Okay, so that's the number 1 in binary. in 4 bits. The number 2 is this, right? So we'll go on our network portion. I'm going to put the number 2 over there. And what's the smallest number I can write? So we took this line and put it up here. So now what do we have?
Not sure right now, I think 32, but
Add 1 to that to get my first usable address. And that is now this all needs to be 1s. That's your broadcast. So what's our broadcast address?
50.9.31.1.47.47.
There you go. Which makes your last usable right? Can you tell me without doing anything over here what our next network ID is?
50.9.48.0.
What's next?
50.9.48.0.
Math is hard.
How calculator is.
You're not allowed to use a calculator on test.
64.
What is it?
64.
Yes, you can get a piece of paper. What's the next one? They give you a little blade you're supposed to just etch a number on. 80? What's next? What's next? Because your magic number is?
16.
There you go. Okay. So if I ask you, we'll go down here and on this network, so 150.9.96.0. What's the last usable address of that network?
150.9.95.
Nope. Last usable address on this network. 111. Last usable address. 254.
One less than the next.
150.9.111.254 would be its last usable address, or last assignable address. What we're talking about, this means for all your hosts, all your routers, your computers, printers, all the things that are going to need to get IP addresses assigned, can only use addresses from here to here if you want them on this network. Okay? So I have a router, and hanging off this router is the 150.9.32 network. What's this network's new subnet mask? Nope. 255.255.255.255. Let me give you another cheat.
It's about 47.
128 plus 64 is 192 plus 32, 224, 16 is 240, plus 8 more, 248, 252, 254, 255. This line on top, you can now use that. That's the shortcut to, instead of having to think about, oh, I got to add these all up. If I tell you it's 4 bits, go over 4 bits, and what's the number above it? Yeah. So your new subnet mask is 255.255.240. When you go to take a certification, you take a Cisco certification, before you start that test, write down the number line and write down the line above it, so that you don't have to think about it under the pressure of the exam, under that time limit. All right? Take away as much of that as you can. Write that number line. So now if I said we used 6 bits, right, 252. Okay? I'm sorry, what I should have said was we borrowed 6 bits. I say it that way because that tells you what we're doing with the line. Alright? What if I told you, though, we borrowed 10 bits? I've got 8 bits here, 8 bits there. What if we needed to borrow 10 bits to be able to accomplish our task? No difference. Start here. There's 8, 9, 10. You just move the line that far. Now what's your new subnet mask?
All of those were ones, or?
Yes. No. Subnet mask is only made up of ones, correct? So start here, and it's ones all the way until we hit that line. 255 in the first octet, 255 in the second octet. What goes in the third octet? It's all ones all the way to that line. 255. Nope. Here's the line. Yeah, what's the number above 64 over there? 192. So if this were the case, our new subnet mask would have been 255.255.255.192. Okay?
So you look at the subnet mask, you know exactly where to put the line.
Exactly where to put the line. Here's another little tidbit for you, though. If I move that line of Class B all the way down here, I'm affecting that last octet, which might mean that my broadcast address is not 255. Right? Fine. Most often it will mean that it is not 255.
Class C.
It will always happen in Class C. Because the only octet I can affect in Class C is the last octet. And basically, wherever the line gets drawn is the octet that I am messing with the most, which is the octet that I'm going to cause to not play by the rules. Okay? just, my warning is don't fall into the trap. Oh, broadcast address, 255. Don't do it. Stop and think about what you're being told and what information you have. All right? We can pause right there.